Good morning, and thank you to Movement to Work for inviting us along to be part of the event today. The bar was set pretty high back in June, so we just hope we can build on the momentum from that event and contribute to the important conversation around youth employment. I'm Alex Black, Inclusive Economy Programme Officer at North of Tyne Combined Authority. For those that aren't familiar with the North of Tyne Combined Authority, that job title and role will make a bit more sense in a minute as I talk through our involvement with the youth employment ecosystem. So I've got about 10 minutes to talk to you today, and I'm going to start by giving an overview of the North of Tyne Combined Authority. And then on the theme of insight, impact and inspire, I'll talk you through some of the information that is being collected and used to inform our practice. I'll give you a brief overview of the North East Recovery Plan and what that means in practice. And I'll also talk to you a bit more about what the North of Tyne Combined Authority are doing. And then finally, I hope to leave you with a few key actions and next steps that we're working towards to address some of the issues around youth employment. So what is the North of Tyne Combined Authority? We bring together the local authority areas of Newcastle, North Tyneside and Northumberland under one united vision. We were formally established in November 2018 with the first mayor elected 6 months later. So by all accounts we're a relatively new combined authority. Our area is home to world-leading businesses, amazing destinations, a wealth of culture and residents full of ambition and talent. Our economic vision is set to capitalise on these assets and unlock the potential of our area to create a thriving, dynamic economy. Our economic vision is underpinned by our inclusive economy ambitions. Despite our great assets, our area struggles with inequalities. Compared to the rest of the country, residents here on average earn £45 a week less. Children are more likely to grow up in poverty here than they are elsewhere in England. And young people have often struggled to unlock their potential, and we have one of the highest rates of young people not in education, employment and training. These inequalities also run deep in our constituent authority areas, with significant inequalities experienced even between neighbouring wards. There are groups who experience these inequalities more than others, and that's damaging for them, for our economy and for us as a society. We're striving for a more productive, dynamic but more equitable community. Young people are part of this equation, and if we can address the issues for them and create an environment where they can thrive, it will have a lasting impact for generations. COVID-19 has certainly turned the world upside down since February. As we're starting to steady, we're also starting to get a better understanding of what that means for the North of Tyne, and in particular for young people. Early in the pandemic, COVID-19 was described as the great leveller for the way in which health implications didn't differentiate and the ease at which the virus spread between communities. We now know that isn't true, and worse still, the economic implications have impacted communities differently. This has had significant implications for our inclusive economy ambitions. Women, people of ethnic minorities, people with disabilities and young people who already faced inequalities in our area are now being hit harder. As we're here today to talk about young people, anyone that has followed the literature will know young people are 2.5 times more likely to work in shutdown sectors. Approximately 30% of workers in our region have been furloughed, so you can only begin to understand what this has meant for young people and their early careers development. Nationally, the ONS recently published figures saying that the number of 18 to 24-year-olds claiming unemployment-related benefits in July is up 126% compared to March. Anyone that's worked with young people for a while will realise that not all young people will be claiming employment benefits because of circumstances such as still being able to live at home. In truth, the numbers here are likely to be much worse than what is presented. As businesses adapt to new ways of working and quite frankly adjust to what is now a survival mode, we've seen near record levels of people in 0-hour contracts. Approximately 1 million people across England are employed in 0-hour and temporary contracts, and young people are disproportionately represented in these roles. Again, the North of Tyne and the North East region historically has quite high levels of people in insecure work, so we need to think what this means for our residents and for young people in particular, and how we can champion and advocate good work in such difficult operating circumstances. One of the obvious challenges around zero-hour and temporary contracts for young people is that opportunity to develop and gain the building blocks which will support their ongoing career. But it's not just employment where young people have been impacted. We've also seen approximately a 15% decline in apprenticeship starts for Q3 in the north of Tyne. Typically, Q3 doesn't have high levels of apprenticeship starts anyway, and it's based quite often around the academic year. So come September, we're expecting again another significant drop in apprenticeship starts. Again, we need to think through what this means for young people and that pathway into progressive, valuable, meaningful employment. And finally, for anyone that turned on the TV during August or opened a newspaper, you'll be well aware of the issues we've had around exam results and tracking attainment for young people, supporting them on their educational journeys. As an area with 2 internationally renowned universities, we attract students from across not just the country, but also from abroad. What this means for our economy, both in terms of the migration of young people, importing skills and preparing our economy for the skills and the talent needed to thrive, we've got a lot more thinking to do. We also require a lot more data to really understand the impact, which, due to the academic cycle, we're not expecting to see until October. And that brings me on to my next slide. So as much as we've got lots of valuable data, there's lots of information that we don't know, and there's going to be a data lag. So in order to move forward effectively, we need to be better at collaborating and listening and asking each other the right questions. In times of such uncertainty, we also need to do it more often, more frequently, so that we stay ahead of the game and keep ahead of the moving picture that we're currently living through. There's lots of valuable surveys and consultations that have happened since February. Prince's Trust always do an annual survey, which is excellent, and the National Youth Association have got a long list on their websites of a lot of valuable resources that have explored the impact of coronavirus on young people. Here in the north of Tyne, we wanted to add to that collection and to also get a localised perspective from young people on their aspirations ahead of the autumn. We've released a survey targeting young people who are aged 16 to 25, asking about how their aspirations have changed and what support that they need to move on to their next steps. The survey's only been open for 3 weeks and it'll close on the 18th of September, but from the early results that we've had, we've discovered that young people's confidence has been shattered and replaced with anxiety over their fears. Young people require or are asking for a lot more bespoke support to help them navigate this new world and to understand some of the technical aspects of application processes that are inhibiting them from their next step. Of course, we're really keen that this survey is representative of young people in our region, so we'd really appreciate your support in helping to share this, and we'll publish all the results online so that other organisations can use this to help shape their service. This isn't about what the North of Tyne can do, this is about what we as stakeholders can do collectively to create the right ecosystem for young people to reach their potential. In terms of impact and what's already happening, I'm not going to dwell on this slide of their national response, but the government and the Treasury released a statement back in July time outlining some of their key policy developments in relation to employment and education support for young people, and pick up a few of those key features. It's great to see that young people are going to have access to some valuable work experience and the investment in traineeships, career support and apprenticeships. There's a significant investment here which is very welcome. What we need to do now as the combined authority, working with our constituent local authorities and other key stakeholders, is work out how these new policies, these new opportunities will be implemented within our region. To ensure that these policies are effective, they need to be coordinated in a way that is easily understandable and accessible for young people so that they can plot their next career steps, and that businesses are able to access the talent that they need to help their business survive and to grow. The North East Economic Recovery Response Group made up of the North East Combined Authority, the North of Tyne Combined Authority, the North East LEP, the CBI and the universities have been helping to shape a plan to help not just young people but our whole region overcome some of the challenges imposed by COVID-19 and work towards a more inclusive, dynamic recovery. The full plan is available on the North East LEP's website, so I'll let you go and browse that at your own time, but generally it's split into 3 phases. One which is about the now, the here and now, the immediate impacts. The second is the next stage about exiting lockdown, and the third is about developing new stages to help us towards our vision. And across those you'll see various interventions for young people, including coordinating labour market interventions, looking at enterprise startup and support and employability support, about refreshing some of our skills strategies and economic visions so that the provision available to young people matches the needs and the demands of the new emerging labour market. And third and finally, the long-term vision about looking at that end-to-end journey for young people and for those in the labour market, working towards further skills devolution and investment in local infrastructure, which can play a significant role in careers offers for young people. And across all of these aspects is certainly the element of good work, whether that's young people who are engaged with the labour market right now or looking towards the future, making sure that the work that is available for young people in our region gives them the best platform to be able to reach their potential. So what are the North of Tyne Combined Authority doing? We're working within the North East Economic Recovery Group's strategic work plan to develop our own young person work plan. This has been designed in collaboration with our Inclusive Economy Board, which has helped make sure that no young person has been left behind. We've already adapted some of our commissioning and our investment decisions in response to COVID-19 and to support young people with their education and employment pathways. You can read a bit more about some of these projects on the North of Tyne website. But it's not just about funding, it's about what we can achieve together, and some of the power of the North of Tyne Combined Authority. Being a combined authority is about convening, and it's about building upon the existing infrastructures that already exist. In particular, we're considering how we continue our work with DWP to shape the employment support available for young people, work with our adult education providers and other key stakeholders to ensure that skills provision meets the emerging needs of our economy, and to be able to deliver on the Plan for Jobs commitment that were announced by Treasury back in July. Alongside that is the continued engagement and consultation with young people through the survey, which will be fed into all of our discussions, both with local stakeholders and through the M9 and Northern Powerhouse discussions. There's no timeline for how long this pandemic is going to last, and there's certainly no quick fix. So we need to all work together to play our part and to understand how we can come together to create a better environment for young people to reach their potential. So finally, what next? Well, inspiration is hard when you're speaking to those that are clearly engaged in this conversation already and they've given up their morning to contribute to the discussions. So the next steps as we see them are fairly simple. We'll continue our consultation with young people and we'll look forward to sharing the results of that survey with the wider North of Tyne area. We're looking at further ways in which we can involve young people in the conversations around the decisions that matter for them, including a mayor's question time, perhaps later in the year or at the start of next year. We're also keen to further develop our partnerships, working with local stakeholders to get a better understanding of the world around us and what we can do collectively to work in a more integrated way. And finally, we're going to be working through the stages of the North East Economic Recovery Plan to get a better understanding of what we need to do in our region to reach our ambitions. We'll continue to track and monitor data on those groups that might look like they're being left behind or facing additional inequalities because of the emerging situation. And we'll be looking at how we can work with local stakeholders and to request more devolution to better inform and better influence the provision that are available to young people. We'll be part of the panel discussion later today, so we hope you can stay and ask us any questions then. Thanks again for your time, and I hope it's been useful.